The most toxic of all marine organisms, and in fact the most venomous of all organisms on land or sea, is the cone snail. This is a marine mollusk, essentially a snail that lives in the ocean, that is highly venomous and contains toxins called conotoxins. Conotoxins have an LD50 of 0.001 milligrams per kilogram, far more toxic than anything else we've discussed thus far. There are many species of cone snail, over 600. Most reside in the oceans of the South Pacific region. The cone snail uses this deadly venom to kill small fish that are its prey. The venom is loaded into a harpoon located in a hollow tube that extends from the body. The harpoon is launched at the prey and the venom targets the nervous system. About a dozen people have been confirmed killed by cone snails since reporting began. However, it's more likely that many others have died and just not known that their death was caused by the cone snail. The toxins in the cone snail have been widely studied since they may be of important medical use. Conotoxins involve a variety of small proteins mixed with over 100 other chemicals. In humans, conotoxins can result in either rigid paralysis or flaccid paralysis, with rigid paralysis being the most common form. By keeping the sodium ion channels open and blocking potassium channels, it makes it difficult for neurons to send signals and inhibits pain signaling as well. This can last up to 20 hours and produce a continuous contraction of the muscles. Because this leads to a lack of pain signaling, conotoxins have also been investigated as painkillers, and they are estimated to be 1,000 times stronger than morphine, and not at all addictive like morphine is. Pharmaceutical companies have in fact patented one conotoxin already for this purpose, with other drugs in development. Moving away from venom, let's talk about a few toxins. These are molecules made by living systems that are not injected. The first of these is botulinum toxin. Botulinum toxin is a result of botulism. It is the most toxic molecule known to man. It has an LD50 of 0.001 milligrams per kilogram. And the reason why we consider it more toxic than the conotoxin venom is that botulinum toxin has that LD50 by itself, whereas the conotoxin venom is a combination of many different types of venom with the same LD50. In fact, botulinum toxin is so toxic, 1 kilogram, equivalent to roughly 2 pounds, is enough to kill every single person in the world. It's produced by a small bacterial cell known as Clostridium botulinum. Clostridium botulinum causes botulism. This microbe is anaerobic, meaning it grows without oxygen, and it's commonly found in the soil. It generally does not infect or grow in people, except in infants, and we'll talk about that later. But where it does grow and multiply is in canned and jarred food. As they multiply, these bacterial cells produce the toxin botulinum toxin. The jarred or canned food has to be cooked so that all of the bacterial cells die, because as soon as the can or jar is sealed off, even a few of those bacterial cells could continue to grow and divide and produce this toxin as the can or jar sits in your pantry or cabinet. Even if you cook the food after you open up the can or jar, all the poison has already been synthesized, and cooking will not eliminate it from your food. This is one of the reasons why you may have heard to avoid cans that have bends or bulges in them. Botulism itself begins with double vision, progressing to difficulty swallowing and general muscle weakness, leading eventually to death. Death occurs from paralysis of the diaphragm, which controls breathing. Botulism without medical care has a mortality rate of 70%, meaning you are likely to die if you have botulism and don't get medical care. With medical treatment, that drops down to less than 10%, which is still fairly high. The way botulism or botulinum toxin works is it blocks the release of acetylcholine from nerve cells. This leads to the inability of the brain to cause muscle cell contraction, leading to flaccid paralysis. This is the same chemical that's used in Botox to paralyze facial muscles to prevent wrinkles. Botulinum toxin is also successfully used to treat migraines when injected into the head by blocking neuronal signaling. Infants can get infantile botulism, which is generally acquired from honey. These microbes also live in honey, where they generally do not grow. If an infant were to eat honey with botulism microbes in it, those microbes could eventually grow in that infant's intestine and cause infantile botulism, which is an infection of the bacterium inside the body. Adults, thankfully, have microbes in their intestine and a healthy immune system that prevents these microbes from growing. And so we can eat honey just fine. Now, throughout this lecture, we've been referring to antivenin. Antivenin is medicine that's used to treat venom. We can also refer to antitoxins, which is medicine used to treat toxins. These are the best countermeasures we have to combat venom and toxins. These were first developed over 100 years ago and involves a process where we introduce increasing amounts of a toxin to an animal, usually a horse, to get the animal and their immune system to respond by making antibodies against the toxin or chemical. Antibodies are protein molecules made by the immune system that bind to and neutralize other molecules, such as toxins or venoms. Generally, what's done is a specific species is identified. Venom from that species is collected, usually altered slightly using formaldehyde, before it's injected into the horse so as not to hurt the horse too much. And then the horse's blood is collected a few days later. Antibodies from the blood are harvested, purified, and concentrated. And this is what's added into IV bags or vials for injection into patients later. These antibodies are also referred to as immunoglobulins. Horse antibodies or immunoglobulins are generally what are used for antivenin, and antitoxins today. This process is generally considered safe, with the biggest problem is a possibility of a severe allergic reaction to the horse antibodies themselves. This severe allergic reaction could result in death if it's bad enough. Which is usually why after application of antivenin or antitoxin, if a specific patient develops an allergic reaction, they will not be given the antivenin or antitoxin again, even if they're bitten or infected by the same organism a second time. Well, that's it for our lecture. I hope I didn't scare you too much with some of those images. I'm also going to be posting a quick video about how snake venom can affect blood. It's not too gory, but there is some blood in it. So if you're really sensitive to that thing, you may want to skip it.